Dear friends, we can ask ourselves why a gospel reading dealing with death when we are celebrating the Mass in memorial of Saint Monica. This is a type of gospel readings we have for funerals, but nobody is dead as such. We are celebrating someone who is in heaven, sharing in the fullness of God's glory. So why having a gospel reading that is treating the theme of death? Well, it's not very difficult. The first thing we can say is that the dead people are not just those who are in a cemetery or in a mortuary. Actually, there are many more dead people around. There are dead people who are physically alive, they are moving, they are using their mobile phones, they have laptops, they are living their ordinary life as though they were alive, but at the same time, they are dead. So the dead men are not just the people who are physically dead. There are also dead people walking around. The more vivants exist. And just as Jesus brought back to life the only son of the widow of the town of Nain, this gospel fits very well the story of Saint Monica, because as we reflect on the life of Saint Monica, we will see that the Lord had pity on Monica, just as he had pity on the widow of Nain. And the Lord brought back Augustine and then gave him to his mother, just as he did for the only son of the widow who was brought back to life in 2,000 years ago, as the people were going to bury the son out of the city or the town of Nain. Now, let us go a little bit on the life of Monica. We have to reflect on her as a wife and as a mother. As a wife, she was given in marriage to a man known as Patricius. And Patricius was a pagan. Monica was already a Christian, she was a Catholic. The man, Patricius, was a pagan, he was not baptized, and he was somebody who was bad-tempered, and at the same time unfaithful to his wife. Sounds familiar, no? That we get a husband who is bad-tempered and for whom the promises of marriage were an event or word said in the past, unfaithful to her. So you can imagine already that one, the suffering of Monica. And to add insult to injury, the mother of Patricius came to live with them. And the mother of Patricius was also a pagan. She was not just a mother-in-law. For Monica, she became also a mother in lies. She was telling a lot of lies about Monica. So now you have the mother and her son against Monica, and all of you are living under the same roof. You can imagine the suffering of Monica. But Monica was the silent wife, the first one that I was talking about, the good trained wife. She was the woman of good character, who in her silence she offered everything to God. She prayed and prayed and prayed for the conversion of her family members. And before his death, Patricius, the husband, was baptized and became a Catholic. Just like the mother-in-law who became a mother in lies, she also was baptized and became a Catholic. So the intercession of Monica worked very well for the husband and for the mother-in-law. But she was a woman who greatly suffered as a wife. As a mother now, with Patricius, Monica had 3 children. The firstborn is the most famous, is Augustine. Despite the fact that Monica was a good Catholic who did their very best to educate the child in the faith, the son became a rebel, was not listening to the mother, was even insulting the mother. He left the Catholic faith. He did not follow the faith as Monica was doing. Rather, he went even to the sects, even the Manichaeans. He became accustomed to the Manichaean philosophy. So he was somebody, although very intelligent, but he had to follow even the words of the sects. He made his mother to suffer. He got a mistress, got a child, a deodam, and ignored all the advices of a mom. Can you imagine the suffering of the mother? Augustine himself, in his famous book, The Confessions, he said that he was born twice. The first time, it was, on the day he was born. But the second time, the process was a painful one for his mom, according to him. The travel was a lengthy travel of tears and suffering. So the mother had to offer prayers and tears and suffered a lot for the second birth of Augustine. And the suffering of Monica was such that she entrusted herself to the Bishop of Tagaste in Algeria, a local bishop. And the local bishop, knowing Monica very well, at one point, just like as a priest, as a counselor, you follow a situation for a long period of time. Sometimes you become speechless, you don't know what to say again. The local bishop of Tagaste told Monica one statement which remained very famous. He said this: "It is impossible that the son of so many tears should go lost." That's what he told the mother. It is impossible that the son of so many tears should go lost, because the bishop himself was a witness to the suffering of Monica. He encouraged her. And by God's providence, as Augustine was in Italy, St. Ambrose, the great bishop of Milan, catechized the man and helped him, and he became a Catholic. He was now baptized and received the sacraments. But do you know how many years passed between the moment the mother was praying, and from the moment the mother was praying until the moment the guy got converted? More than 21 years. So for 21 years at least, Monica has been praying for the conversion of the son. And don't forget, undergoing also the suffering of unfaithful and bad-tempered husband, and the lies of the mother-in-law. So Monica was suffering so much that even her friends, they were surprised to see her strong. So, but Monica, how come you are strong? Because we are the ones to pity you. On the contrary, you are the one giving us courage and strength. Because what we know you are going through is so painful that it is us for us to give you courage. But you are the one encouraging us. That is when you leave everything to God. when you entrust everything to God, there is one supernatural strength that comes in you that makes you stand and be strong. That is why Saint Monica is a model for all the struggling, all the parents who are going through many hard time, difficulties because of the misbehavior of the children. But she's also a model of perseverance in prayer, that we should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. That is why many mothers, they can recognize themselves, they can see themselves in the life of Monica. Maybe because the child is now abusing drugs, is abusing substances, is not coming to the Catholic faith, is not interested in prayer. Maybe because the son has gone through different sects, doesn't listen to you. Or also a model for women who are married and they know what has happened with the husband. The husband is abusing them with words and is unfaithful to them. One last thing which shows you really that we need to ponder out the story of Monica. There was a time Monica was in Ostia, in Italy, on her way back to Algeria, to the hometown, to come back to Africa. And she was with her son, and they were talking, they were sharing. And the mother said, "My son, well, I have no more reason to stay on earth. So my time has come to leave this world. I have been praying for many years for you to become a Catholic Christian. Now the Lord has answered my prayer much more than I expected. Because not only that you have become a Catholic Christian, but you have even decided to forsake the pleasures of the world and to consecrate yourself entire life to the Lord." Because Augustine had decided that he was going to live a life of chastity, of poverty, and obedience. He was going to consecrate his life to the church and to Christ, to become a priest. And that's what happened. And today, Augustine is the great doctor of the church, the great bishop we know in the history. So after sharing the story with her son, a few days later, Monica fell ill, she got fever and died. That was in the year 387. She died in Italy. Satisfied that what she was asking for was answered and even much more than she hoped for. So we are going to ask the Lord, to the intercession of Saint Monica, to give courage and strength to all the parents who are having it hard with their children, but also ourselves. Let us be proud of this African woman, so that she will also be an encouragement to all the African women we know, and indeed all women across the globe, and as a model of perseverance in prayer and of courage despite all odds. Amen.